Hello and welcome to Teaching Maths After Coronavirus Shutdown Session 9 with Mrs. Kelly. Today we shall talk about teaching maths and other subjects after the coronavirus shutdown. A lot of my fellow colleagues and parents might be confused as to how to go about teaching a subject once we return after being 6 months at home back to school. It is very important to focus on a child's social emotional development and also encourage them to learn and fill up the gaps that have been created as a result of missing out on school over 6 months. It's also important to cover the syllabus in a flexible manner, focusing on the child's interests or children's interests and helping them learn and fill up those gaps over time. Do not rush through anything. Enjoy and relax and allow the children to go along with the flow. That is very important. So let's go ahead and see how we can teach maths in a flexible manner during our return to school during the COVID pandemic. The coronavirus has taken up a major role in our lives and has changed the way we do many things. Above all, it has encouraged us to be flexible, adaptive, understand our students, focus on well-being, and take care of our mental health. Keeping all these things in mind, I have some tips and strategies that you can use to teach maths in a very flexible manner or any other subjects and to help your children adjust to being in a classroom after being 6 months at home and helping them to grow in their learning. Some strategies that we are going to talk about today are flexibility in learning, focusing on well-being and mental health, trying to go with the flow and go according to what children like to learn, brainstorming with our colleagues and following the maths syllabus that we are given or the ministry maths guidelines that we have. Flexibility is very important. It's very important to be flexible with the children and allow the children to be flexible and learn what they feel like learning. But it's also important to put in the important lessons that they need to learn in a fun and interesting manner so that they feel more engaged and want to learn. It's important to engage your students, and it's also important to understand how they feel and proceed in a very flexible and slow manner, because children are going to be adjusting to being back in a classroom after almost 6 months, as well as adjusting to a new curriculum for us teachers in Canada in maths. So it's very important to take your time and to do your lessons based on children's interests. So you should see what level your students are at. This year has been a crazy year where kids have missed out 1/4 of learning. Please feel free to start your curriculum from the previous year, as that is probably where most of our students have left off. Besides teaching current year curriculum, use 5 minutes of your class to reinforce and talk about things students need to learn from the year before. Even those 5 minutes add up to like a whole year of additional mathematic activity that you've been doing in your class and additional mathematical learning that the kids have learned. Go with the flow and take things easy as they go. Be prepared for change and ready to adapt. Sometimes teaching maths outdoors can be fun and reinforce the learning we need them to catch up with. Like, for example, when you teach maths outside, you can play a game of hopscotch. That helps a kid with basic counting, subitizing, sequencing of numbers. You can play a game of tag and then count how many players you've got. That also helps with basic counting, subitizing, and sequencing. There are many games that you can play outside. There are also the hundreds chart game that you can play outside and talk to children about the numbers. You can identify a number and make them hop towards that number or walk towards that number. If they stand on the right number, you know that they can recognize that number or not. So those are some fun games that you can play with your students outside to inculcate maths and math learning in their curriculum. Focus on the well-being of your students. Understand how your students feel. See what level of learning they're at. Try to focus on and use materials that interest them. Help them learn at their own pace. Help them to have fun. Make them feel safe and secure. Help them cope with their anxieties about the pandemic and be there for them. It's very important to be there for them and understand how they feel, because a lot of our students who are coming back to school after almost 6 months of being at home might be a little anxious. There might be separation anxieties that are involved. So it's important for us to understand their anxieties, which in turn will help them feel safe and secure in class, and in turn will help them learn better and focus on learning in a very fun and secure space in school. Try not to follow a set pattern of lessons. Use your textbook as a guide, as some students may return with gaps in their understanding. Try using cognitively guided instruction like story problems and let children solve the problem any way they can and discuss their solutions. Build relationships and connections between the different strategies children use to solve the problem. Some kids may be still counting on their fingers, and others may have more advanced strategies. It would be typical to have this happen at any given time, but now more so because kids may return possibly to school with an even bigger gap in understanding. You need to allow kids to work where they are comfortable and find ways to help bring them through the learning phases in order to become more efficient, more accurate, and more flexible with their strategies. So it's very important to have your textbook with you, to use that textbook as a framework on which you're going to create your lessons, but it's important not to stick to the organization and the order of the lessons in the book. You can go according to what the children like. Like you might start with counting in the beginning, you might go on to shapes or patterning and come back to subitizing and sequencing and all the other topics. And that is fine because you're still covering curriculum, but you're doing it at the children's pace and you're being flexible and you're allowing the children to learn in a very fun and secured space. So that is key. Follow the ministry curriculum in math. The document helps you focus on the major standards are for each grade level. The general idea is to get to know what level our students are at. It is important to understand not only what you need to teach at the current grade level, but also what you need to teach from the previous grade levels to fill in missing gaps in learning. The document helps you really see what is important and helps you focus on major topics of learning, helping you to make learning flexible and fun, and in turn helping kids to learn more. So when we look at our Ministry of Curriculum document, it's important to see the framework that needs to be covered and the expectations. So we need to observe these expectations in a very flexible and fluid manner during the year that we're heading into. And it might take some time because kids are going to be coming back anxious and they're going to be coming back with a lot of gap in learning. So it's important that we focus not only on what they need to learn for the current year, but for the year before, because that's where we left off. And so we need to work up and fill up those gaps at our own pace and in a fun manner. And it's important to keep in mind the curriculum which the ministry has allotted to us because that's what we need to follow. And if we are able to cover that curriculum during the year in this crazy year, well and good for the student, but then we might need to cover that same curriculum the subsequent year. So that curriculum also helps us know the level at which the students are at, and it also helps the teacher figure out from where they need to start their curriculum because the curriculum is expansive. So you need to know where you're going to start your curriculum from, whether you're going to start from the year before or whether you're going to start it from the current year. But as of this year, with the crazy situation that we are in, it's important to go back to the year before because a lot of students have had a major gap in learning in terms of maths and most subjects because we had to shut down schools in early March. So they've not received a proper cohort of learning from March right down till September. So focus on what they need to learn from the previous year before you start the current curriculum, because that would be a much easier challenge to deal with than starting with the current year curriculum and having to struggle with a weak foundation that is underdeveloped from the previous year. Brainstorm with your team. Brainstorm with your team on an ongoing basis. Share ideas of what worked and did not work. Create a resource bank of fun and creative and flexible ideas. Integrate discussions and studying of documents together. Different grade level teachers need to work together to be able to close up the large gap in learning in the various grades. Plan to use 10 minutes a day to focus on last year's curriculum. Attached below is a fun website with great math activities you can do with students indoors and outdoors. Look under real world math and fun math prompts to find math activities and discussion prompts in the link below. It's very important to brainstorm with your colleagues, to keep talking to your colleagues, to share ideas with your colleagues about what you've been using to teach your math classes, because sometimes an idea might work for your colleague but not work for you, or an idea might work for you but not for your colleague. So when you brainstorm, you get a whole idea bank of ideas which you can use in your math classroom, which is very good. And you should also integrate discussion with your colleagues when you're studying the documents and the ministry curriculums as to what needs to be learned. So sometimes when both your colleagues are on the same page in terms of learning, the children learn better because they're all learning at the same level. It's not like your colleague is teaching a year higher and you're teaching a year lower curriculum. You need to both be on the same page and at the same pace so that all the kids catch up with the learning that they missed out on at a uniform pace. You must also think about fun games that you can use to integrate math learning. Real World Math is a very nice section on that website, and it has a lot of websites from Ericsson Maths and Dream Maths, which give you fun ideas that you can do with your kids to inculcate math and math mindsets. Also, fun math prompts is another fun section of the website. It has fun math prompts that you can, it's a visual math prompt, which you can look at with your children or with your students, and you can have a discussion. You can start off by saying, what do you see? What do you wonder? And that kind of helps them try to focus on what do they see and what do they wonder. You might get a variety of responses. For example, if you show them 10 flowers and you ask them, what do you see? They might say, we see flowers. If the flowers have different colors, they might talk about the colors of the flowers. If the flowers are different types of flowers, they might say, I see 4 lilies and 5 daffodils. So there are all kinds of discussions that come out from a math prompt. So I love math prompts because I'm a great fan and supporter of illustrative math that uses math prompts. And it makes maths very fun, learning, interactive, and it makes it very inquiry-based and hands-on. Thank you all for watching my channel. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Have a nice day.